There is a quote by Alan Watts that I believe, if you truly understand it, your entire life begins to change. You are not a stranger in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. At first, it sounds strange, maybe even a little crazy. Because from the moment we are born, we are taught the opposite. We are taught that we are small individuals, randomly thrown into this world. That life exists out there, while the real me exists only inside this body. And so, our entire lives become a struggle to survive, a struggle to prove ourselves, a struggle against other people, a struggle against time, a struggle against our own minds. But Alan Watts suggests something completely different. Maybe from the very beginning, we misunderstood who we really are. Think about a wave in the ocean. You look at it and call it a wave. You treat it like a separate object. But can a wave truly exist apart from the ocean? Of course not. A wave is simply something the ocean is doing for a moment. It is not separate from the sea. It is the sea, taking a temporary form. And Alan Watts says, human beings are the same. You believe you are an isolated self, a separate identity, a consciousness trapped inside a body. But in reality, you are no more separate from the universe than a wave is separate from the ocean. You are something the universe is doing, right now. Look at a tree. Apples grow from an apple tree. Flowers grow from a flowering bush. And Alan Watts asks, if an apple tree apples, what does the universe do? The answer is simple. The universe peoples. Human beings happen just as naturally as leaves growing on a branch. Yet strangely enough, we spend most of our lives believing we do not belong here. We say, I came into this world. But Alan Watts says, no, you did not come into this world. You came out of it. Just as a leaf grows from a tree. Just as a wave rises from the sea. And this is where suffering begins. Because when you believe you are separate from life, fear becomes unavoidable. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of loneliness. Fear of aging. Fear of death. Why? Because an isolated self always feels fragile. It always feels like it could disappear at any moment. And so humanity becomes obsessed with control. Control the future. Control emotions. Control people. Control life itself. But the more we try to control everything, the more exhausted we. Alan Watts once said, life is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be had. Yet modern society trains us to forget this. Everyone is running towards success, running towards status, running toward validation. And one day, you wake up and realize something terrifying. You never truly lived. You only survived. There is something deeply tragic about modern humanity. We can measure the distance between galaxies. Yet we barely understand our own minds. We have technology that connects the entire world. Yet people feel lonelier than ever before. Why? Because deep inside, most people carry the feeling, I do not belong here. But Alan Watts says, that feeling is an illusion. Imagine a whirlpool in a river. You can point at it and say, that is a whirlpool. It appears to have its own shape and identity. But no water actually stays inside it. It is a movement, a process, a temporary pattern in the flow of the river. Human beings are exactly the same. Your body changes every day. Cells die and regenerate. Thoughts change. Emotions change. Even the version of you from yesterday no longer exists. So what exactly is the self you are trying so desperately to protect? Alan Watts believed that what we call the ego is mostly a story. A social idea. A label placed upon us. Your name. Your nationality. Your career. Your past. These are descriptions. But you are not the description. You are the living process itself. And this is where things become truly fascinating. If you observe life carefully, you begin to notice that everything is connected. You cannot exist without air. Air cannot exist without trees. Trees cannot exist without sunlight. Sunlight cannot exist without the universe. Everything is part of one immense system. One continuous movement. But the human mind loves division. This is me. That is the world. This is humanity. That is nature. And from that division, conflict is born. Modern civilization treats nature like an enemy. We speak about conquering nature. But that makes as much sense as a hand trying to conquer the body. Because you are not separate from nature. You are nature. You are earth. You are water. You are sunlight, temporarily appearing as a human being. Alan Watts once said something beautiful. You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. Think about that for a moment. The stars themselves helped create your body. The calcium in your bones once existed inside exploding stars billions of years ago. You are not standing outside the universe observing it. You are part of it. The universe is becoming aware of itself through your eyes. But why do we forget this? Because from childhood, we are taught to become someone. No one teaches us how to simply be alive. You must be smarter, more successful, more attractive, more important. And so we spend our lives chasing a future version of ourselves that finally feels good enough. Meanwhile, life itself was already complete from the beginning. Look at children. A child can sit quietly for hours watching the rain. They do not need a reason to feel alive. Adults are different. We always need conditions. I'll be happy when I make enough money, when I become successful, when I find love, when everything is perfect. But the moment we achieve one desire, the mind immediately creates another. And the race never ends. Alan Watts called this the backwards law. The more desperately you chase happiness, the more suffering you create. The more tightly you try to control life, the more anxiety you feel. Because life is like water. You cannot hold it with a clenched fist. Dash, dash, dash. Perhaps the thing human beings fear most is uncertainty. We want guarantees. We want to know what happens next. We want reassurance that everything will be okay. But life does not work that way. It changes constantly. It moves constantly. It remains unpredictable. And according to Alan Watts, that is not the flaw of life. That is the beauty of it. Music exists because notes move. If you held a single note forever, it would no longer be music. Life works the same way. A flower is beautiful because it fades. A moment becomes precious because it cannot last forever. And perhaps, death is not the opposite of life. It is part of life itself. People fear death because they believe they're isolated individuals. But if you are part of something larger, then death becomes transformation. Like a wave returning to the ocean. It does not disappear. It returns to what it always was. The strange thing is, while human beings desperately search for the meaning of life, trees simply grow. Clouds simply drift. The sun simply shines. Yet humans constantly ask, what is my purpose? Maybe life was never meant to be explained like a formula. Maybe the meaning is already contained in the experience of being alive. To feel. To breathe. To exist. Alan Watts never told people to reject life. He simply encouraged us to stop fighting it. To stop treating existence like an enemy. Because you are not separate from reality. You are reality happening. And perhaps, the deepest peace arrives when you finally realize, you do not need to become someone else. You do not need to earn the right to exist. You already belong to this universe completely. You always have. Imagine the ocean creating millions of waves. Some are large. Some are small. Some are calm. Some are violent. But all of them are still water. Human beings are the same. Different languages. Different faces. Different stories. Yet beneath everything, we come from the same source. Maybe that is why, when you sit quietly in nature, you sometimes feel something impossible to explain. A strange sense of familiarity. As if you have finally come home. Because somewhere deep inside, you know you were never separate from this world. Dash, dash, dash. Alan Watts once said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You cannot fully define yourself. Because you are always larger than the idea you have of yourself. You are life itself. You are awareness. You are this moment. And when you truly understand that, something changes. You begin to live more lightly. You stop obsessing over winning every battle. You stop fearing failure so much. You stop feeling completely alone in the universe. Because you realize you never were separate from it. Perhaps this is what people are truly searching for. Not money, not fame, not power, but connection. A sense of belonging. A feeling of unity with life itself. And maybe awakening is not becoming something new. Maybe it is simply remembering what you have always been. Beyond your name. Beyond your story. Beyond your fears. You are life unfolding itself. You are the universe waking up, in human form. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to slow down. Breathe deeply. Look around you. Maybe, for the first time, you will notice that you were never separate from life at all. And if you enjoyed this journey into the philosophy of Alan Watts, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, a single new perspective can completely change the way we experience reality.